Hello YouTube, my name is Tyler and this is my second week of May reading vlog. It is May 11th and it is yet another late start to the vlog. I've just been reading so much stuff so slowly and so it has just taken forever. However, I did finally finish one of the slow books. That book was The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. Let me look up how to pronounce that. Louise Erdrich. Yes, The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. I'm giving this 2 stars. It's so difficult to talk about this. First, I will say I believe this is like kind of part of a series that all take place in this same like reservation in North Dakota, South Dakota, one of the Dakotas. And I believe this is like the second book that like took place here. So maybe if I had read the first book, some of the feelings of like, am I just supposed to know this stuff? Like maybe there would have been less of that because I would have had like this foundation knowledge. I didn't feel like I was missing a ton. Like it felt like a standalone novel, but maybe would have helped kind of ground me in this universe. I mean, it's America. It's not like a sci-fi plot or anything, but that might have helped. So let me get back to Goodreads because there was some things that I wanted to touch on. So here's a 3-star review that says, the problem is that the book feels flabby and bloated. There are a lot of detours, a few more characters than you can realistically keep track of or care about, and one too well-meaning but ultimately dragging lectures on the Native American legal system and its relationship to white American law. Although nominally structured as a thriller, the novel has a notably leisurely pace. Thus, while I enjoyed most of it in an anecdotal, pleasant kind of way, it never gripped me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So they seem to enjoy that leisurely pace more than I did. Yeah, it starts off with Joe and his dad are like having a regular day, and then they realize Joe's mom, his dad's wife, has not returned, and so they go to find her, and then they find her, she has been violently raped, and so it starts off on a horrific note, and you get this idea that Joe and his dad are like gonna try and figure out what happened to his mother, but it is just so dry. That commenter mentioned, I should mention whose name that was, Elaine, who gave it a 3-star on Goodreads, mentioned the legal stuff, and there was definitely a lot of it. In the afterword, she talks about how this is like supposed to be kind of like commentary on the sexual assault rate of Native American women, and how that goes under penalized in American society. And there was a lot of stuff that I did find interesting in that tension between white residents and Native American residents in areas where they meet, and that tension that can be created there. So there was a lot of stuff interesting there, and I found some of that legal stuff to be interesting. But then there, like this reviewer mentioned, there's just like so many people and it goes in so many different directions, and like it dragged. The writing, like I just didn't love. I mentioned before, there were no quotes around the dialogue, which I hated. It was Joe telling the story from the future, but like it just made it confusing because it would go so long between these like narrative jumps in time, but just these little quips about the present day when he's writing this, but we never know like why he's writing this down in the first place. Like, why is he telling this story in the present now? Why is he telling this story from his childhood? yeah, I just did not love the writing at all. I was bored. I would have probably DNF'd at 50% if this was like not a buddy read. And I ended up switching over to the audiobook, which I could listen at 2 times speed. So that was kind of why I ended up sticking with it. Also on the note of that review about the too many characters, definitely there was like so many people, and it introduced like this white family kind of near the beginning, and then I like completely forgot about this white family until like it got brought up, got brought up again, and I was like, wait, who the fuck are these people? Because then we had to meet all 3 of Joe's friends, all of Joe's family. Like there was just too many people. And honestly, I didn't really care about any of them. I found Joe to be annoying, constantly talking about his aunt's boobs. That was another, I'm getting so distracted about, I can't keep a thought together. There was way more weird sex stuff than I expected. He's 13, so I get it, to a point. Teen boys are horny little gremlins. But he's like constantly talking about his aunt's boobs. His mooshum, which I believe is his grandpa, and Grandma Ignatia, like constantly talking about sex. There was a whole like scene where they're talking about like his mooshum getting his dick hard and like the sex that they've had in the past. And I'm just like, what does this add to the story? What does this add to the story? I truly, I didn't get it. I'm like, I hated that. The only character I cared about was Linda, and I loved Linda, and I wanted to know more about Linda. Okay, this review is a mess. I really cannot keep it together. I just did not really have a great time with this read. Like a good chunk of the end, or like the build up to the end, I did enjoy the closure on like that main plot, but I did not actually like the actual ending of the book. I don't know. I don't think this was the book. I liked the commentary and thoughts on Native white relations. There was stuff that I just picked up on from like podcasts and things and other things I have read by Indigenous authors. And she is also Indigenous, so like that all felt real and authentic. But the writing and the pacing and the like, the way she went about writing this just like did not work for me on like basically any level. So yeah, didn't have a great time. I'm gonna hopefully finish Biography of X soon. I think I'm like a little over halfway, or I'm like 55% or something through. I'm really hoping I can finish that this week. I also checked out a new Jeff Lemire graphic novel. It's not new in general, it's new to me, which I can't remember the name of. So hopefully that's good, and I'll also finish that this week. And I should definitely finish Forager before this vlog is over. I'm dreading editing this clip because I struggled with this book so much so that like I could not even put into words why I struggled with it and did not like it. So hopefully I can make something coherent out of that. Anyways, I will see y'all hopefully soon with another book thought. Goodbye. Hi, hello, it is May 13th and I have finally finished Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. I'm gonna give this 3 stars. I think to really enjoy this book, you have to immediately be invested in X as a character and CM's love and relationship with X. And I just never got there. I do think the back half was a little less dry in terms of the writing. Like I got a little more into just like reading this, and could embrace and enjoy the writing a little bit more. And maybe that has to do with finally being done with the Roundhouse, which I was not enjoying like at all, and really did not like the writing of. So that compounded with reading this, maybe just had me feeling worn out trying to read this. So I enjoyed the back half a little bit more than I enjoyed the front half. There was a little less like having to force myself to pick it up. I was a little more intrigued to see where it was going. But like I just could not, I don't know, I just like could not believe X. And not that like because it was unrealistic or anything like that. I just like couldn't understand the appeal to the character and why she was this big deal. So X is an artist, and so she has shown work in galleries, but she's also a writer and like a performance artist and all these things. And so maybe some of that is just like me not understanding the art world. There definitely felt like there was some commentary on like making art, perceiving art, criticizing art. So maybe some of that criticism or commentary on that world just went over my head, which left me feeling adrift while reading this. The other thing is like, I feel like I mentioned in last vlog, the biography format didn't work for me. It wasn't working for me. And it's still like by the end, I don't think this needed to be this pseudo biography format. And so like while reading this, it just kind of irritated me because I wanted to love it, because I usually love that. And usually the gimmick is, if the gimmick is enough to get me in the door, I'm gonna have a good time. And unfortunately, like the gimmick actually just annoyed me while reading this. I just wanted the story to be told like a story, like a book. I just wanted it to be a book, a normal book, without having to like see X through CM's eyes. And then as the biography is going on, CM is talking about how she's getting more, I think she used the word like she hated her wife now, and like was so irritated and like all like negative feelings towards her wife as she's learning more about X. And it definitely was like building the suspense of like something is gonna happen. And that reveal like just fell flat for me. But I'm saying it's probably because like I just did not buy into X as a character or their relationship. And then the end just also kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Because one, it didn't feel like the end of a biography. Two, I did not believe in the relationship. And I think that's just like the long and short of this experience was like the relationship between X and CM, and like this idea concept of your partner, and can you really know your spouse, your wife, your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is like the heart of this. But since I could not buy into their relationship, and I just like did not care about, I like fundamentally did not care about X, I just like could never fully get into this and enjoy it. As I mentioned, the stuff with the Southern Territories and the disunion and all that stuff, when that got mentioned, it was interesting to me. I wanted to know more about that, but I also don't know what that really truly added to this story. And I don't know why the story that was being told needed to take place in this alternate universe. Like, I don't feel like the alternate universe, the alternate timeline really added all that much to the story. Like, it was kind of interesting how like super equitable the Northern Territories were and how that provided opportunities. But I don't know. I just don't feel like it added a ton to it, and honestly kind of made me confused when it was mentioning real life people that exist in our timeline. Like David Bowie got a mention in this, and there's like authors, and there's a Barbara Walters interview at one point. And it ended up just making me think, like, would these people still exist in the same way that we know them if the United States had split into 3 different territories and one was a religious theocracy? Yeah, I don't know. So it's unfortunate, but like, it's 3 stars. I had a lot to say about the things that didn't work for me, but it wasn't a miserable experience, if that makes sense. I liked the writing enough that I'm definitely going to try out Pew. I'm not sure what her other book is about, but she mentioned it a few times in the like source notes or whatever. So I don't know if I'll read that one, but I am definitely interested in Pew, and I know Pew is pretty short. I don't know if I'm going to read that like anytime soon. I want to read something good soon. So May is shaping up to be a pretty dismal reading month in terms of numbers and quality. However, Yellowface comes out next week, so I'm really excited to read that. Hopefully I can read something good now that I have cleared my currently reading of the stuff that I've been struggling with. So yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Howdy, it is May 14th, and I just finished reading the first volume of Gideon Falls by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino and Dave Stewart. So a Jeff Lemire joint. How do I want to explain this? The first volume subtitle is The Black Barn, and that seems to be the mystery at the heart of this story. There is a black barn that keeps reappearing, and it's definitely spooky. There's like something weird with this barn. Like, it disappears and comes back, and it's not like in a set location. However, it's told through 2 different people's stories. So there's Norton, and he's been seeing the black barn since he was a kid in his dreams. He's living in a city, and he is having some mental illness problems. And then there is Father Wilfred. He's a priest. He has alcohol issues, and he's been sent to Gideon Falls because their priest has died, and this town seems to kind of be the epicenter of the black barn. Lots of stories about people missing, people kind of going crazy and killing people, stories about a black barn appearing and disappearing. So it's not clear how these 2 stories are connected beyond the black barn, because it's going back and forth between the 2 through all the issues. It's not like one issue is focused on the priest and then one issue is focused on Norton. All the issues go back and forth between these 2 men. So yeah, it's not clear immediately whether this is like maybe alternate universes, maybe you go into the barn and you come out at a different place, or maybe the Norton timeline is in the future because he's like in a city where and it doesn't have a name yet, while the priest is in Gideon Falls. So maybe Gideon Falls grows into a big city, and so Norton's storyline could be the future. we don't know yet, but it's definitely intriguing. There's definitely some horror aspects to it, like the black barn. When people see it, it like instills fear in them. In the Norton timeline, there seems to be some sort of like figure attached to it that is very creepy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There definitely seems to be some religious themes that are going to be going on. At one point, like a Jesus figure appears in the priest timeline. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I really like the art in here too. The way some of the panels and things are done, it's just very intriguing how it's laid out. It's easy to follow, but there's also some non-traditional aspects. There's a lot of use of circles and like growing larger or smaller. So there'll be like a small circle highlighting something in a big frame, and then like a bigger circle somewhere showing what's in that frame. It's just really interesting use of the circles and like the paneling that I've really enjoyed, and I feel like it's done very well. So overall, I'm enjoying it. Okay, Max. I am not planning on checking in every time I finish a volume. I do believe this story is complete. It's like 6 volumes. So I'm just going to continue reading those, and then once I finish, I will update with my entire thoughts about the series. But yeah, I just wanted to check in and say that I had finished volume 1, enjoying it, planning on continuing the series. Alrighty, I will talk to y'all tomorrow. I think I'm closing the vlog out. So yeah, I'll talk to you then. Bye. Hi, hello. It is May 15th, and I have just gotten back from my walk, and I'm here to close out this vlog. Before I close out the vlog, I do want to talk about, I finished one more book last night, but it was like literally as Succession was starting, so I did not record a clip talking about it. So I'll talk about it now. Last night I finished Forager. Let me pull up my list. I should have prepared better. Forager, Field Notes for Surviving a Family Cult by Michelle Dowd. Dodd. D-O-W-D. I gave it 3 stars. What to say about this? In the beginning, I thought it was really interesting. I think my main problem is a strong word, but like my main struggle with truly enjoying this memoir was, is really short and strangely undetailed. So in the beginning, she talks about how, she struggled deciding where her mother's story ends and her story begins, and how her mother really did not want her to talk about her grandfather who started this cult, and to share the secrets of the field. And so I can recognize and appreciate wanting to respect other people's boundaries and their story, and not making it your own story, but it made it hard to truly understand this story because it was so vague. It was written in present tense, which worked really well. The writing style worked really well when she was younger, but as she got older, it got really hard to decipher how old she was, what the time frame was, because her writing still sounded very young. And so as the story progressed, it just got hard for me to understand. In the beginning, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but the way she talked about her uncles, I was like, I can't tell if you are talking about like being sexually assaulted by your uncles or not. And then it never came back up until like the very end, and then she bluntly said like it was like with her first boyfriend, and she was like, I never want another man to touch me like my uncles did. So there was just like a lot of that where it was like, I can't really tell what you're saying to me. There was just like such vague details that it was hard to understand her story and the choices she was making. And there was just such big jumps in time that it just was very disorienting. And it feels like you needed some sort of background knowledge to this cult to truly understand her experience and why she was making the choices she ended up making. But like, I tried to find what this cult was, and I couldn't. And she talked about how she changed all the names of like her family members and the people that she talked about in the book. So like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, she purposely was trying to protect these people, but in doing that, it made it hard to understand the book. And if there was more explanation of like her choices and stuff, I think that could have worked, where she could have still been vague and non-specific about certain people and actions and things that were going on within this cult. But I don't feel like I really got into her mind either. So yeah, I don't know. I did appreciate this like through line of like, her mother was a naturalist and taught her how to like forage, hence the name, the things she could eat off the land and how to survive out in the wilderness. And so I appreciate that through line of like that very physical way of survival and how it connects with her ability to have survived this experience, her childhood, and how she survived that in a like mental, emotional way. So I appreciated that like metaphor, that through line through the book. But yeah, it just was hard to fully connect with, I guess. And like, it was a very short audiobook, but I found myself constantly going back to re-listen to certain sections because I'm like, I must have missed something. How did we get here? What is she saying? I don't understand what just happened. Thinking I had like zoned out and missed a big piece of information. And it just was like, that piece of information was not there. So I was looking for a little bit more explanation or something to really connect the pieces, and it just wasn't there. But it wasn't bad by any like stretch of the imagination. I could see why it works for people. I just struggled with it. I needed a little bit more like hand holding, I guess, to get through it. So that was the last book I finished this week. I'm pulling up Goodreads because I can't totally remember what I'm still reading. So let's see. I finished 4 books this week. I think most of them were 3 stars, to be quite honest. Yeah, it wasn't like a super great reading week, besides the fact that I managed to actually finish more than 1 book. It was 2 star, 2 3 stars, and 1 4 star, which was Gideon Falls, The Black Barn, Volume 1. Yeah, there's nothing that like straight up like blew me out of the water, but I am excited to continue reading Gideon Falls. The only other thing I am currently, like I have actually started and am currently reading, is The Disappearance of Joseph Mengele by Olivier Guez and Georgia D. Chambray. I think I butchered like everybody's name in that. Anyways, I started that a couple nights ago. I haven't read a ton of it, but it's fine so far. I've been doing a lot of reading of Wikipedia articles about Nazis. I will see y'all next week with hopefully thoughts on Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Although I'm not sure how big it is, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually read it all in 1 week or not, but I'll at least have it to show and be very excited about. And yeah, I'll see you next week with some thoughts about books. Bye.